Hey everybody, it's Mother Love coming to you live and truly in living color on today. How fabulous that it's bad when you look in the mirror and you go, I am really cute today. Hey, this handsome fella is Kamy Akhavan. Did I say it right?
You sure did.
How about that? You know what? This is just the universe opening up to conspire for our success. Because after the crazy from yesterday, talk about a polarization. Okay, let me tell you what. This is what he does. He's a professor. He specializes in. You got a whole bunch of stuff. Tell them who you are and what you do and where you came from and what. It's a good thing you're handsome because you got to be crazy to get be in politics.
Well, thank you for all of that. And
Okay.
yeah, so my name is Kamy Akhavan. I'm the executive director of the USC Dornsife Center for the Political Future. Been there for about 5 years. I teach a couple classes at USC. I teach a class called Doing Good: How to Start and Run a Successful Nonprofit Organization. Teach a course on political research. And I teach courses on interpersonal relationships, how to improve the relationships you have at work and at home. So a lot of what I do is trying to bridge divides with people in professional and personal settings, and the ability to do that is getting awfully difficult these days.
Can we just tell the truth and shame the devil? It is insane, Comedy. It is insane. And then yesterday, I mean, even up to so I don't buy it. Did you see it? Did you see it in action? Everybody knows what we're talking about, the attempted assassination of the 45th. I don't say his name. He doesn't deserve it. And everybody say it enough. So did you see it? And
Oh,
if you did, what did you think?
I saw it. The whole world saw it. I mean, arguably, the president of the United States is the most powerful position in the whole world. And when somebody is this close to losing their life who held that office, that is a big deal for the rest of the world. And it says a lot about where we are as a culture. It says a lot about gun violence. It says a lot about mental stability. But to regular people, it says a lot about the lengths we will go to take out the people we disagree with. And it's not about I'm right, you're wrong. I'm happy to be wrong. I want to be corrected, but it's the I'm right, you're evil. That's the difference. Because when somebody is perceived as evil, you are justified in doing anything to stop that evil. And that's how this shooter felt about Donald Trump. We must stop that man.
And this was a Republican. He was a young Republican. And at 20 years old, I have shoes older than him. What was he doing on the planet that would have him so angry and have that kind of evil building up in him? Do you want to take a shot at a candidate? Really? Oh, and they shot him dead. So and I don't think I'm a conspiracy theorist. I really don't. But I work in the entertainment industry, and just call me bananas. But that looked like prop blood on his ear.
Uh, you know,
Okay,
it's
because when you think about it, okay, he was shot on this side, right? And then the one Secret Service person came this way, and another one came this way. Okay, but when he went down, he didn't have blood on his face. When he came up, he had blood on his face. Shut up, mother love. Okay, was I saying things?
I tell you, when we witness stuff like this, our brains are wired to where they need answers. And sometimes what we see does not make sense. And so our brains are trying to fill in the gaps, going, I know that doesn't make what I saw just doesn't make sense. So let me come up with some explanation that does make sense to me. You're doing that. Millions of people around the world are doing that right now because we just can't process that
Well,
somebody.
you know what? We won't process it. We won't process it. We can do this when we sit down collectively and be strong enough and smart enough to agree to disagree. A lot of us will agree with each other, a lot of us will not. So let us be the adults in the room. It done just got crazy. And just when you think it can't get any crazier, it gets
It gets
even crazier.
crazier. Yeah. And the way I think about it, it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Oh no, 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 baby, don't say that, baby, don't say that. Then the crowd, anybody could have been hurt. That's what I'm just saying. It was too methodical. You know what I'm saying? It was just too methodical. And I made movies. I've had blood that start plug, on my body, and I know it. And shut up, mother love. So when we talk about where do you and did you think that we got to a place where we just lost complete control of our senses? Was it with the elections? What is it with all these people being murdered by gun violence? You know, we got the military saying things like AK-47s and AR-15, 100, whatever they are meant to kill. These are killing machines. What does the average person in this country need with a gun like that?
Well, you brought up so many great issues here. We could talk about guns, we could talk about bullets, we could talk about mental stability, or we can talk about the motivations to use any of those things to harm one another. So I like to think about it. I don't like to, but I do think about it from why did all this happen? How did we get so divided? Remember in 1950s, the American Political Science Association, they did an article in the Premier Journal, and they sounded the alarm like, hey, America, we have a huge problem. And at the time, the huge problem was our political parties were too alike. And that when they're too alike, we don't get enough compare, contrast different points of view. We become homogenous thinking. We don't have enough viewpoint diversity, and there's not enough people challenging status quo, and that it becomes stagnant, and democracy can't function that way. So they're like, hey, we need difference. Can you imagine now we flash forward to that same organization now in 2019, they did a survey and said, how many of you think we'd be better off as a nation if large numbers of the opposing party just died? And 15% of Republicans said yes, and 20% of Democrats said yes. So I'm thinking, how did we go from being dangerously similar to murderously divided? And the answer to that story takes several decades to answer, but that's what's happening. We have gone
Okay.
from similar to
Oh,
different.
okay. See, and that in and of itself lets me know that you know what you're talking about. I mean, as a young person, and we've seen this, but I can't tell. You know, I can't tell how old somebody is unless they're like children, and some of them look 30. I saw a little boy the other day. I thought he had a mustache, but you can't. Nonetheless, we are, and we just keep making, to me, we keep making the same mistakes over and over. We don't want to say we're going to take care of this issue. We could have had an issue, could have solved the immigration issue a long time ago. It's just kick that can down the road. Oh, they'll take care of it. Oh, I don't need to be bothered with that. And nobody wants to participate. And then when they are participating, then they want to argue. And it's over stupid stuff. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Really? Really? They had Herschel Walker out there were parading this guy around who actually said out loud in public, well, see, we got that, we're going to have the good air and the bad air. And then the good air going to mix up with the other. And you are listening to somebody like this. We got enough issues as it is. Why do you think we are so polarized now in this hostile political arena now?
Well, I've been studying this for over 20 years, and I can boil it down to basically two factors. One is the forces that bring people together, those forces are eroding and fading. The forces that drive us apart, those forces are multiplying like crazy. But let me be specific. So, I mean, the forces that unite us, I'm talking about going to a movie theater, going to a restaurant, going to like little league games or sports league, going to concerts, going to the grocery store. Now you can stay home and do all of the above, right? We can order from Uber, or order from Uber Eats or DoorDash or Grubhub. Food will come to us. We can get Von's delivery or Safeway delivery. We don't have to go to the grocery store. We got Amazon for everything you could possibly want. We don't experience people who are different than us in our physical lives. Going to the mall, that used to be a thing. People don't go to the malls anymore, right? Department stores are failing, like the retail establishments are going down in person. So our in-person interactions going down. And think about like union participation, that's way down. Going to church, synagogue, mosque,
Temple, someplace. Just could you?
yeah. So all of these things where we interact with people, we feel community, these things, those opportunities are becoming rarer and rarer. So that means that the public square is shrinking. And meanwhile, what's happening is that as that public square is shrinking, we spending more time online and in our digital lives. And look at what those things represent. So our digital lives on social media is designed to deliver what we want to see more of, which means If you haven't seen it, you're not gonna, because it just gives you more of what you already know and experience. So if you like Donald Trump speeches, you're going to see posts from your friends who like Donald Trump. You'll see more Donald Trump videos. And if you like Joe Biden, you're going to see more posts from friends who like Joe Biden. So it gives you what you want. That's the business model. That's what is supposed to happen. But what happens is then we get deeper and deeper into our own thoughts and our own they call them filter bubbles or echo chambers. So we're not really exposed to differing points of view. So we don't see them in our regular lives. We don't see it in our digital lives. We don't see it on our television screens. When you come home from work, do you turn on Rachel Maddow and watch MSNBC and think that's how the world is? And if you do, you would probably never turn on Sean Hannity and Fox News and think that's how the world is. So people are self-selecting. If you take the LA Times or New York Times, maybe you lean left. You take the Wall Street Journal, National Review, maybe you lean right. So we just keep doing that to ourselves. Then you look at where we have chosen to physically live. The people in our communities, are they roughly the same income level as us, roughly the same races as us? Are they roughly the same education levels as us? Are they roughly the same, you know what I mean? Like they become more political ideologies as us. They become more and more like us. So because we're a highly mobile society, we're moving into communities that reflect who we think we are. We're watching the shows of who we think we are. Our media diet, the food we're feeding our brain, our media diet is all the stuff that is more of the same flavors, right? So we're not eating a rainbow, we're eating this narrow band. It's like,
wait, speaking of the rainbow, and people, we don't even listen to our bodies tell us that this is not something you should be eating. This is not something that you should be doing. And I was like really outdone. They said that the cereals like Fruit Loops and Lucky Charms, it's all the same taste. They just put a different color on it, and we just thinks it tastes pink, or we think it tastes blue. I'm like, really? And all of the connectivity that we have, and I can talk to you immediately. We could be on the other side of the world and have a chat like this. And we, as you said, we have become more polar. I saw two kids in the mall when we could still go to the mall, and it was safe to go to the mall. And I'm wondering sometimes, is that a conspiracy for the security teams to say we're gonna scare them so much they don't want to go to the grocery store, so we get the food brought to them? Shut up, mother love. I saw them sitting back to back like this, and I said, because I'm nosy. I'm like, who are you talking to? She goes, my girlfriend right there. I'm like, this is turn around and you could communicate. They looked at me like I had a third eye in the middle of my forehead. I was like, okay, I'm way out of my realm. Let me just go back here with the grown people. So when you see it, and is it allowing our kids and the next generations of us to keep this going, or is there hope for us to be able to say we know better than this? Because the kids, they know everything. Where'd you find it? On the internet?
The short answer to that is we have the capacity as human beings. We are social animals. We are designed and geared, and all these hundreds of thousands of years of evolution have made us the kind of creatures that need to connect. We need to. And because of the way our society is now structured, where we can't connect, it's harder to connect digitally and in person. We have, as people, 30 years ago, we had more friends than we do today, right? That's just true across the globe. People have fewer friends than they used to have. So we have fewer meaningful connections. And we have what are called as epidemics of loneliness. In England, they have a minister of loneliness. That's their job, is to try to cure that. And you look at survey after survey in this country, it's at least 1 out of 4 people who feels loneliness because they don't have friends in their lives. And so we're thinking about our needs are being not met. And so when we try to find community, sometimes we'll find community with this online group that says crazy stuff, but that's our community. That's people who have accepted me. They see me. I can communicate with them. And that has great emotional value and psychic and spiritual value. So I want those connections. And once you make those connections, we establish the loyalties to those people. Like we will defend them like you would defend your friends. So that is happening by the millions across the world right now. So we're attaching ourselves into these different groups and these different identity groups because we are not finding those kinds of attachments in our lives, and we desperately need them. So to answer your question, right?
That's really sad.
It's sad, but at the same time, those tools for love, the capacity of our hearts, the ability of our brains to have empathy and connect with other human beings, that capacity is strong and is there. So we have all the tools. When you talk about what's happening in our politics, we have very talented, good people who are going into those professions. Maybe they're not rising to the top right there, but they're in it. They're trying. So there's a lot of people who are have these we have the right mentality, the right attitude, the right skills. We have a lot of the innate tools. But what's happening is there's three barriers, right? And the way I see about those three barriers, sometimes the barrier is ourselves. Sometimes we are guarding our hearts. We're zipping our lips. We're closing our minds. We're closing our eyes, closing our ears. We are reducing our own capacity to be better, do better, learn more, and connect. The other barrier is an interpersonal barrier, meaning we're not having the conversations in the right ways. You are a champ at conversation. You are the queen of conversations. But a lot of
You know,
people,
I'll be writing that down. I am writing that down.
good,
Queen
good,
of
good. No, it's true. I mean,
Thank you very much.
I'm so honored to be on your program. I love you're a big deal, and I'm so happy to be here.
Why, thank
Yeah.
you.
So the interpersonal connection, sometimes we reduce our own capacity. We don't talk to our neighbors. We don't talk to our colleagues. We don't talk uh, to uh, random strangers on the street, on the bus, and in the malls. We don't do that. So that's that. Those first two things, what's in on me and what's between us, that is within our control. And that's why I want people to understand that for all the problems they see in the world, we can't get out of blame for those two things, because you can change who you are. You can change how you talk. You can change who you speak with. Conversation is the currency of unity. It's the currency of connection. Conversation is what brings people together. It makes so we can do that. That is absolutely within our power. Now, the third barrier, these are systemic barriers. These are, how much money does it take if you or I decide, you know what, I'm going to be a senator? Like, okay, I don't have enough. I'm not going to make enough money in my lifetime to even think about it. So that's a barrier. Why is it so expensive to run for office? Also, if you decide to run, who is already in the race? Who has been anointed by the political parties to say, we're going to choose you or choose you or choose you to be these candidates? So how do you ingratiate yourselves within these party structures? Those are sets of perverse incentives to get ahead. Then you look at, how are these districts even carved up for congressional districts? They are gerrymandered. It's so predictable. If you live in Southern California, it's a Democrat that's going to win. You just don't know which one. That's going to be decided in the primary. If you live in Louisiana, my home state, it's going to be a Republican that's going to win. It's just which one. And so they become predictable. You know what the percentage is, the magic of democracy, where you don't know if the Democrat or the Republican is going to win? What percentage of electoral districts have that uncertainty? It's about 6%.
Stop the bar. Stop it.
The rest of it is all carved up and predictable. So that is a structural disincentive.
That's a great point right there. Okay, just break it down and make it plain. Okay.
Yeah.
And you could get that 6% to think like you think, and maybe it'll spill over to somebody else. So they'll say, oh yeah, I'm just going to vote Republican because that's all I've ever done. Don't know what the record of that candidate is.
Right.
Well, my grandmother there, and people didn't even know this. Back in the day, after they emancipated the slaves, they were all Republicans.
Mm-hmm.
When they got signed up for a party, so they can tell you whether they say it's very few leaders, a lot of sheep.
That's it. That's too many echoes, not enough voices. That's it.
Oh, I love that. I love it. Thank you. And it's like wah, 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 like Miss Peach in the funny paper. And still, I think we've gotten lazy. I think we are lazy human beings. When I go into the ladies' room out at any point, the toilet flushes for you, the water comes on through,
right.
You got air below your hands and your face. I'm just like, really? Are we really that lazy that we can't even think of basic things to do for ourselves? Do we expect everything, like the internet, to solve all of our problems?
It's such a good point. And, part of it is that we have all these technologies like AI. They can do things like write poems and songs for us, but can they do my dishes? No. Why can't we make the AI to clean my house so I can write the songs and write the poems?
See, it wasn't just me, y'all. It was not just me saying that. I'm like, really? I tell my husband because he's a gadget guy. Are you a gadget guy? You know,
No.
you're not a gadget. You're not a tech. My husband is a techno. If it's shiny and he could plug it in, he will do it. And he, oh, oh, we gotta get a smartphone. Oh, we gotta get a smart TV. I said, listen, can my house just be dumb? I just want to live in a dumb house. I want to be able to put the key in the door, turn myself. I don't want to be able to turn the lights off. Really? You don't even have to be in your car to start your car. Now you can be in the grocery store, start it. Well, just darn. And we have all these modalities that we can use to better ourselves and our communities as a collective. What do you see? Oh, you already said this. We close ourselves off. We think we can do everything by ourselves. We can, live in a silo and think it's going to be all right. And okay, I'm just going to be over here in my little part, and you be over there in your little part, and I don't even know who you are. Mm-hmm. We moved into this gated community, and God bless everybody that can live in one. Never again in my life, God willing, and the creek don't rise. Oh, Allah help me, everybody. I will never live in another gated community. I didn't. I had to go around the community and meet my neighbors, and they thought I was like some kind of freak. The lady said, "Who is that at the door?" I was like, "Wait, I'm your neighbor. You can look out the window, see I live over here, and what have you." And they were like, isn't she somebody like on TV or something? Why is she coming and knocking on people's doors? I want to know who's around me. I need to know if I get into trouble, you'll help me. You need to know if you get into trouble, I'm going to help you. That we can do. And I knew everybody on both sides of the street, and they loved me. They hated to see me leave. Oh, well, moving on.
That's it. Now, I wish more people would do exactly what you just did. Get to know your neighbors. I mean, there's so many people I can think of in my neighborhood who they don't know each other. They don't even know who lives right next door. They don't know the family, who's the kid that lives next door that I see. But to your point about laziness, one point I want to make about that is, on the one hand, it's all true. Everything you said is true. The automatic flushers and the hand washers, and it's just so easy to get around without doing much. But at the same time, I think about how difficult it is to be an informed citizen in today's age. And I'm remembering growing up when you had 3 television stations, and if you wanted to change the channel, you had to get up and turn the knob, right? And there was three channels: ABC, CBS, NBC. They're all pretty good. It's just, what flavor do you like? They're all good. They're all pretty much the same. And nowadays, if you want to find out what's happening in the world, you don't have 3 stations. You have 3,000 stations. And then the stuff
most of it's crap. Most of it is crap. Just say it. Just say it. It is crap. I'm sitting there going, we paying $400 a month for a cable bill, and this is what we're looking at? Really?
No, it's true. It's true. It's low quality.
Exaggerate people.
But it's intended to scare us. It's intended to kind of keep us divided. They call it these kind of conflict entrepreneurs. Like it is to their business bottom lines interest that we keep watching because we're scared. We're like, oh, what's happening in the world? I want to be outraged. I want to be shocked. I want to, all those emotional needs are being met because of the shock value of these television stations. And so that's what people are doing. They're self-selecting which of these 3,000 things that they want to watch. And to really understand what's happening, that means you got to have a diverse diet of information. Mm-hmm. Most people they find that 1 out of 3,000, and that's the one. It's Newsmax or it's MSNBC or whatever it is, and that's their one flavor. But to really understand, you got to have a little bit of this, a little bit of that. You got maybe some CNN, maybe some Fox, maybe some network news, maybe CNBC. You're jumping around and you're getting a diverse diet of information. And when you don't do that, then all you see is that you see the world through a peephole instead of seeing the world.
Not even a slice anymore. It's just a peephole now.
It's just a peephole. That's right. So I encourage people to do that. Try to expand your media diet.
You got to. My husband makes me because they all get on my nerve. I will tell them to their faces, and they know it. One time, the FBI literally came to our house at the when we lived in the gated community, and where we lived, we had a really strategic view of some very important sites, for the United States. Well, this was right after 9/11. And they were knocking on the doors and, did you see anybody? I was like, how did you knew my name, knew my government name, knew when my birthday was? I was like, what? Why'd you get all that? Fingerprint? I forgot. What did I have to hide? They came right to I said, no, I did not. I was in here losing what's left of my mind. So now, okay, fast forward, here we are, and we're in this polarized environment. How did the pandemic, did you see how it changed people, or have they changed? Have we gotten better, or have we gotten worse?
Well, I mean, both of those things, but mostly worse. And the reason mostly worse is because we became more isolated from each other. We went deeper into our echo chambers because we spent more of our lives on digitally, and we weren't able to connect. And that connection is so important. We It's not just a nice thing to do. We need that in our lives. We need friends. We need people to provide these kind of emotional comforts, challenge our thinking, be supportive, give us love, and to make us feel heard. There was a great quote that says, most people can't tell the difference between feeling heard and feeling loved. That's how important it is to feel heard. And we don't have that when we don't have friends in our lives. So these are deep, deep psychological needs. And if they're unmet, bad things happen. Right? It's just like if the body is unhealthy, the body's going to break down. If our spiritual, psychological lives are unhealthy, they will break down. And that's when we'll see people like this shooter, people who have like increasing rates of gun violence and mass shootings, and people just losing their marbles because they don't have connection. They don't have critical thinking.
And they don't understand that they're worth it, and they feel helpless. During the pandemic, I can't even tell you how many people I talked to, all hours of the day or night, because the time zones are different, and most of them, that's what was their biggest focus. Their biggest issue was, I can't see my family. I can't be with my husband. I can't be with my friends. I've got COVID, or they've got COVID. Everybody had COVID. And it was taking it to a million of us. We are a million less people because of a pandemic. And I think it did a lot more damage because we couldn't be connected. I mean, I was coming up with ways. My husband had this whole ritual. I called him the COVID-19 Sentinel at the door. I have a compromised immune system, and so I have type 2 diabetes. I take really good care, pretty decent care of myself. So we got 4 grandchildren, and they're young, and they walk in petri dishes and carrying on. And so he would have them at the door, assume the position. He's squirting everybody down with whatever kind of disinfectant front and back. You got to put a mask on before you come in the door. You got to put footies on your shoes. I'm like, honey, these are our grandchildren. He's like, and they walk in germ factories. And he literally had us sitting 6 feet apart. All we could do was laugh, because he was dead serious, and he meant it. And I understood, and I appreciate the fact that he wanted to keep them safe as well as myself, and him as well. I said, you know what? I can't wait till this is over so I can tell people just how this insane everybody coming in. And if you didn't have your vaccinate, let me see your vaccination card. Honey. And they still want to come over and be with us. They, even at the 6 feet apart, they still want to come over. And that really was what helped a lot of us, most of us, because we were able to commune together. And they would come and eat. They trusted me to still fix them healthy food and everything. And so it really did help me a lot. I didn't realize. And I'm a huggy, touchy-feely person. You see me, when I speak it up, I'll be hugging on. And that's how I am. But to have that privilege of other people allowing me and other people into that space, that was a big deal for me, And it changed a lot about, the way I thought about people and how we got to take better care of ourselves, because we're only going to be here for a finite time. I mean, why are you fretting so much about life? You're not coming out of this alive. We're not coming out alive. That's just not going to be. Why would we not? What would you what do you say? Because you teach as well. Look, when I was looking at your picture, I'm like, what is he, 12? Did you start?
All
When
right.
you were like 6? You don't. I mean, like absolutely a handsome fella. Now,
Oh,
do
thank
you? What classes do you teach at USC?
So my favorite class is called Doing Good: How to Start and Run a Successful Nonprofit Organization. And it's all about helping young people to either launch the nonprofit of their dreams or see what that feels like. So if they
Mhm.
can launch it at some point in their career, in their lives. I've had at least 10 students who launched nonprofits from my class. Three of them, the first job out of college was working for themselves based on the nonprofit they created. Several of them are still around doing that. I mean, they're doing wonderful things in their communities, uh, and all over the world. I had one student she opened an orphanage in the Philippines, and we could see throughout the class the the kids they were living on the street, and then the building is up. She worked with the local church. They put up the building. These kids now have a place to live. She brought in the teachers. Now they have someone to educate them, and she did this at the age of 20. It was remarkable young people. So I love teaching that class because it just gives me hope for the future. Is these young people, they have that capacity, they have that power, they have the intellectual skills, they have the emotional drive, and we just kind of, I don't want to say stay out of their way, but help guide and nurture,
Mhm.
and don't put too many barriers in the way of people who are trying to do the right thing.
And that's one of the biggest problems I have with people, especially business people who want to live in that silo, who want to just be in that barrel by themselves, and I can do everything. uh I don't need your help for anything. People, I want to take my house shoe off, and I wear really nice house shoes, and just slap them about the back of their neck when they go, I'm a self-made woman, I'm a self-made man. You are an idiot. You didn't self-make anything. Your mom and daddy did all that. Then when you got here, you didn't have, you did it all by yourself. It just magically appeared. I said that to, I ain't gonna even call his name, one of these big CEOs, and his wife was like, she, after I said it, because some of them get the big head. And after I said it, and I meant every word I said. I said, I'm told to his face. So me and his wife went to the bathroom at the same time. She came in the bathroom and she said, Mother Love, she said, Mother Love, I love you. I said, I said, well, I love you too. She said, girl, you checked him and you wasn't scared. And my husband is a bully. Now, when your wife coming in the bathroom, you know why women get up and go to the bathroom in a group, right? We're going to talk about y'all. We're going to talk about me. That's what we do in a group. And you ever notice how it take us a long time to be in the bathroom, and you guys can just go in there and do and put this sprinkling, and some of y'all just come on. And we've been in there putting on a new face, trying on each other's clothes. Oh, we got a system. We have to. And I miss that. I miss being around people that I didn't know, that I wanted to get to know, especially the young people, because they got so much energy. Let me ask you this. If you knew then, when you're coming up, what you know now, where would you be in life? I mean, realistically, if you had access like they do.
you know, probably not in a very different place because I've spent some 20 plus years being in this space of trying to get people to get along, myself included. I'm learning from what I read and applying it to my life. Before I worked at the University of Southern California, I ran an organization called procon.org. We did pro and con research on controversial issues, and we're the number
Wait,
one.
like what? Wait a minute. What kind of
So
issues were you pros and conning and
immigration,
pros?
immigration, the death penalty, whether or not marijuana has medical value, whether or not you should
Oh,
spank your children, whether or not you should do experimentation on animals, whether there should be school uniforms and no school uniforms, whether felons should be allowed to vote once they come out of prison. 80 different issues. And if you type those words into Google, the number one site that would come up was my site. So we would bring experts together, get the best research on this side, best research on that side, and try to make it easy for people. So they didn't have to go read 3,000 sources of information. You go one place, here's the best arguments on both sides. You read them both and make up your own opinion, whatever it is. I don't care what the opinion is. I just want it to be an informed view and make it easy to be an informed citizen in this country. And that's hard to do. It takes a lot of work.
because everybody wants to be right. Everybody wants to be. See, if they would just listen to what I said and do what I tell them to do, everything would just be so peachy. You don't need to get married and go after you get married, go off and fooling around with Dick, Jane, and baby Sally. No, you need to keep your behind at home. You need to talk about these issues before you say, "I'm going to dedicate my life to this one person." And that's a big deal for me because my husband and I have been together for about 412 years.
All right.
I could not even imagine. When I first came out here, they would say, "So, Mother Love, you still got the same husband?" I'm like, "What? Am I supposed to switch up on him?" I like that guy. He's a pretty good guy, and he's really good looking. I like that guy. And they don't want to put the time into what it takes to have a solid foundation for a relationship. And they don't know how to be friends, and then see, let me ask you this. Are you married?
Yes, ma'am. Been married for 28 years.
How many?
28.
Okay, see, I told you he was 12 when he started. Look, so you understand what I'm talking about. You need that foundation. You need that grounding. You need the people to be there to check you and say, "Okay, don't say that in public, honey. Don't. You come over here and sit down next to me because I'll say it. I'll say it in a minute." And they were like, "Stop her." And so and I see people that are isolate themselves, not just with the situation, but you could tell that something's going on with them just by their facial expression, by the way they walk, and when you see those kinds of people, and especially in your students, what compels you to have them come to you so they can, or have that opinion, so they can have the pro part of the story, the con part of the story, and make an informed decision? And it's an opinion. Why people think their opinion is right? That's not what it is. It's an opinion. You boy, shut up, Mother Love. Okay.
Yeah. The reason why I do that, and I have been doing it. So when I did this for ProCon, every day my audience was about 250,000 people. So that means over the course of my 14 years there, it's 300 million people. I worked with over 13,000 schools in all 50 states in about 100 different countries. So the idea was, how do you do this at scale? Make it easy for people to understand other viewpoints. And what I found, Mother Love, and this is one of the most important lessons that I've learned in my professional life, is when people came to this website and we surveyed and asked them, how many of you changed your mind on an issue based on what you read? I thought, nobody's going to change their mind. Maybe 1%, 2%. It was 40%.
How about that?
I couldn't believe it.
That.
Same survey again a year later, 40%. So why did 40% of people change their mind based on what they read on issues like that, like death penalty, immigration, such complicated issues? And the reason why is because they came to this site with already an opinion. They thought they were right. They read this stuff about the death penalty. Let's say they were for the death penalty. They would read these arguments and they would think, that's exactly how I feel times 100. It's a better language, better sources, more reasoning. And they felt like that's all the stuff you wish you had at the tip of your tongue and having these conversations. So they felt like, I'm hurt. And then the defensiveness would go down and their trust in the source in my site, they would go up. And once we had their trust and the defensiveness was down, perhaps for the first time ever, they looked at the other side and they saw not just like stupid, ridiculous arguments. They saw arguments that were like, I never thought about it that way. Those aha moments. And those aha moments happened by the millions. And that's why people change their mind. And I thought, to answer your question, like, why do I do this for students, is because if you do not listen first, develop that trust, then those folks will never feel heard. The defensiveness will never come down. I will never earn their trust, and they will never see the world in any other way but the way they already see it. So the best thing I can do is listen and first, and then present these counter arguments and earn their trust. So that's what you do. You are, like I said, you are so good at doing this. I wish we could just bottle up the Mother Love sauce and just sprinkle it on the world.
Listen, then I got to put them out my house. They don't understand. You know how people come over your house for dinner, or you go over their house for dinner and you take a bottle of wine or flowers or something for the host.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, my people come over here with Tupperware and tinfoil. I'm like, why y'all got Tupperware and tinfoil? Because we're going to take the leftovers. That's
why.
I'm glad you find humor in my pain. And that when you talk about the trust issue, that has to be the foundation for any relationship. And even with yourself, especially with yourself, you got to, you can lie to everybody else, but you cannot lie to yourself because you do know what the truth is. And oftentimes, especially with young people, they get that, whatever was taught in the house, then they get out into the world and they go, my parents were kind of crazy. That's not how people are. I remember when I went to college and I wasn't around a lot of different people that didn't look like me. Everybody thought everybody in the world would look like me. So it wasn't no big deal. Everybody owned businesses. They were bankers and doctors. What I know. This young girl from Edgerton, Ohio had never, ever seen a person of color up close. And she was just fascinated. She said, well, can I touch your hair? I'm like, wait, hold on. You don't touch my hair. Nobody touch my hair. My boyfriend don't touch my hair. She didn't even understand the culture. And she was just outdone. I remember I was coming out the bathroom, I'm coming out the shower, and had my towel around me. She was looking at me all kind of funny. I said, what's wrong with you? She said, you don't have a tail. Where's your tail? Her parents had told her that black people have a tail.
Wow.
I was outdone. I thought it was hilarious. Well, that's kind of stupid. Woman put a tail. That's kind of dumb. Her parents had to come and get her from college because she just went bat crap crazy. She didn't know what to do with herself. She didn't even, and she felt so betrayed. And I was like, it's all right, baby. You ain't got to go any place. We could do this. This will change your mind. And it changed her mind. She married a black guy. MG kid.
Right. No, that's.
And she said, had it been for my roommate, none of y'all be here. I was like, oh, don't blame that one on me. Talk about changing their minds and changing their opinions. And it's what you're taught. Hatred, racism, sexism, all those isms are taught to children. They're taught and they're put in you. They don't come with that. They come absolutely pure and unadulterated. And we, as the grown-ups, we jack up their life and give them therapy. They need therapy. I knew my son was, he was like, Mom, you crazy. I'm like, yeah, but they pay me for it. So when you talked about earlier, the kids that have been through your program that going to nonprofit. Tell us about maybe the top 3 things people would know if they wanted to start a nonprofit, because it's not a piece of cake to do that. You got to have your program tight and together.
Yeah. So if you want to really start a nonprofit, I think the number one question you got to be able to answer for yourself is why. Why are you doing this? And the reason why is because it is hard work. And on day 1, you might know why. On day 100, you might think, do I know why? Why did I do this? So you got to know why in your bones and be so committed to that. So you got to have that real sense of purpose. Like, this is exactly why I'm doing it, and be real clear about that. So that's number 1. Number 2 is, do not pretend that you can do it by yourself, because you can't. You need to build up a board, a director, some volunteers, to put people in your orbit that are going to be real supportive of what it is that you're doing. Because the problem that anybody is trying to tackle with a nonprofit, these are usually big problems like homelessness. Okay, what is one person going to do about that problem? Right? You need to build up a team. So build up smart teams, right? Build up the right kinds of teams, people with legal background or tech background, or who have a lot of money, fundraising, or really connected. The people who can be very emotionally supportive. You need that kind of a team. So the purpose, the vision, and the team, and then the third part is you need to have that plan of yours to be solid and flexible at the same time. So you need to be really clear about what you want to do, why you're doing it in this community, how you're going to be doing it. But also, if the thing you're trying to do is just not working, then maybe you got to try something different, and adapt and adjust. Because if you keep doing the same thing, right, that's the definition of insanity. You can't expect different results. You got to change the tactics. So I'd start with those 3 things and say, knowing that you don't even need to start a nonprofit to do all those things. You can do that and make money and be a for-profit. The only difference really between a for-profit and nonprofit really is that nonprofit has the superpower of being able to take donations, and that's a whole other source of revenue. And that means you got to be able to ask people for money. If you don't want to ask people for money, don't go into the nonprofit industry, because that's what you're going to be doing a whole lot of. So that's my advice on the nonprofit side. But
And you have to build those relationships and cultivate them. You
Yeah.
know, you have to. It can't be. Oh yes, I'm going over here with Kami, and we're gonna open up. Then he's gonna help me with this nonprofit, and then you don't hear from me for 2 or 3 years later, or when they need something.
Or when
They
they need to.
always call me when they need something.
Yeah.
And for myself and other people, I think it's important to work with nonprofits so you can see how the arms and the legs and how the moving parts all work together,
Yeah.
and understand the power of your connections and what you can do, and don't just give it away lightly. These are relationships that you built, and people come along and say, "Oh well, Mother Love, let me have your list of people. Let me back." I was like, "Wait, y'all, they don't know you.
Right.
Have no idea who you are." So no, that's not gonna work for me. It's not gonna work. So now, when you're talking about starting these businesses and these kids keep moving, and the importance of them having these foundations and these relationships, do they come back to you and say, "Professor, let me tell you what you did for me. Let me tell you how this works." Share
Oh
some
my
of those stories, because you did tell me earlier about 3 of your students who
Yeah.
started their own nonprofit. What other kind of businesses have they started?
Oh
Not
my
them, but
God.
some other students. 300 million people. Some of those were probably my cousins.
Yeah. I'm sure they were. I've made such good friends from doing that kind of work.
Mhm.
But the students that they're starting nonprofit businesses across, you name it, homeless services, legal services for immigrants. I mentioned the orphanage. One of them was delivering water to the homeless in Skid Row area because they were getting food, but they weren't getting water. And then if you counted the number of places where they could get water, it
Mhm.
was less than in United Nations refugee zones. So, and this is here in Los Angeles. So like, this is unacceptable. But that was the norm. So kudos for these students to see the problems in their community, and we all see problems in our communities. There's problems everywhere, uh, but it's their motivation to say like, okay, I'm going to do something about this, and then really be strategic and intentional, and do what it takes to actually do something about those problems. I mean, it is so motivating. But that's one way of doing good. But the
Mhm.
propensity for doing good, you don't have to start a business to do good. It could be as simple as having a conversation with a stranger. It could just be sitting on the bus and say, "Hey, that's a really nice shirt. Where did you get
Mhm.
that shirt?" Or, "Oh, I see you're reading that book. What's that book about?" You know what I mean? Just these kinds of connection. These are so doable, and people sometimes make it seem hard, like the systems are screwed up, and they're right. The systems are screwed up. We talked about gerrymandering. We talked about social media. Like, one person, I'm not going to change that. But there's so much that is within our own capability and our own power, and uh, we should not discount that. These are things we can do every single day, multiple times a day, to enrich our own lives, much less someone else's.
I would rather somebody take, because I will talk to everybody. I could talk to anybody. Children, the babies love me. A little dog was following me around in the store yesterday, and he just kept coming. I'm like, I am not taking you home. I can't believe I'm talking to a dog, and the dog act like they like animals and children. That's how you find out. You find out what kind of person you're around. Put them in front of a baby. Put them in front of an animal, because they don't have the filter. They don't have that phony filter, and they will let you know immediately. One of the things you talked about, like being on the bus with people and just going up and say, "Hey, you girl, I love that color. You work in that blue. You working
Mhm.
that blue hair. I'm liking that." And being able to walk into some place, don't know anybody, come out and almost know everybody in the room. And that to me is important, because you never know who you're talking to. You don't know what kind of position they're in or what they could do for you. And don't look at it like that. Look at it. You just want to say, "Hey, good morning. How you doing, baby?" And I will speak to everybody. You don't have to speak back to me. Don't think I'll be all right with that. You might be missing a blessing. And then I don't want to miss a blessing by not saying anything to you, when I know that all I got to do is say good morning. And that might make your day. Or they'll feel like, I don't want to speak because I don't want to get rejected. I'm like, "You don't even know me. How am I going to reject you?" You
Mhm.
making things harder than they need to be.
Yes.
So here we are in this 2024 election and talking about polarizing the country, what would you like to say to either one of these two old men that need to go someplace and work on their tan and go pound sand and just stop talking? Just shut up and go somewhere and sit down. Shut up, mother love. Okay, go ahead.
The advice I have for them and anybody who goes into political office is you get elected based on the people who support you, but you represent everybody in that district, even the ones who don't like you at all. And you got to do the best job for all of those people, and not just your team, but both teams, right? So that mentality is really missing for a lot of elected officials. They've become so partisan, so much I'm right, you're evil, and they forget about the ones who didn't vote for them. So I'd tell both of those candidates for president, think about everyone who is not supporting you and how you can be the best candidate for them too. Because ultimately, we have a fragile experiment in democracy. No one is pretending the United States is a perfect place. It is not. It is rife with problems, and it has been from its very inception. But at the same time, comparing it to other countries in the world, we're doing a lot better than a lot of other folks, and our intentions are right because we're founded on ideals, and the ideal is that we can form a more
perfect union.
More perfect union. That's it. So we're trying to get to that point, and that means we constantly get better. Is something wrong? Okay, let's fix that. Let's get better. How do we fix it? We got informed citizens who are doing the right things. They're educating themselves. They're learning about issues. They are speaking with conviction and passion and knowledge and empathy, and they're trying to fix these problems. We can do that here. The country where I was born, no. If I speak my mind, I'd end up in prison.
Now, where are you from?
Okay, so here's my quick story, my love. I'll keep this one brief. But
take your time, baby, because that grin just got too big. Like, okay. I want to hear this. Go ahead.
Okay, so I was born in the backseat of a taxi cab in Tehran, Iran. My father had to bite through the umbilical cord.
Wait, stop. You're going too fast. I got to get past. You were born in the backseat of a taxi.
Yes, that sure was. Yeah, in Iran, in Tehran, Iran. We're on the way to the hospital. I couldn't quite wait. I had to see the world. Had to come out. So my dad had to bite through that umbilical cord, and that's how I came into the world. This was in the 1970s, and then my parents, like a lot of other people around the whole world, they thought United States, that's the country where you can be anybody, you can get ahead. It's the land of opportunity, the land of milk and honey. Let's go there, because they wanted a better life.
Yeah, that story, wasn't it?
So then we came here, and it ended up in all places in South Louisiana. I grew up in a town of 20,000 people of Opelousas, Louisiana. I grew up among the Cajuns. I grew up with the most common name in my phone book there was Thibodeau, and then Cormier and Sachery and Arsenault. We
know the Thibodeaus.
You know those names, right? So that was my childhood and upbringing. And I mean, I'm a Kamy Akhavan. There was one of me in that whole state. So I became, whether I wanted to or not, an ambassador for Iranian culture. This is what the food is like, the music is like, the people are like, the history is like. And I don't necessarily know all those things, but I had to be the ambassador. So I was naturally kind of a bridge builder between my culture and other people's cultures. As were a lot of people, like a lot of the South Louisiana has a large Vietnamese population. The Vietnamese was the same population, doing the same kind of bridging work as me. In high school, I moved to Torrance, California, here in Southern Cal. And Torrance was famous because we had the Honda's North American headquarters, Toyotas and Nissans were all in Torrance. So big population of Japanese Americans. And then, of course, big Hispanic populations. So my most common names were Kiriyama and Toya and Kansaku, as well as Gonzalez and Lopez, right? These names. And again, building bridges, connecting with people across difference, no matter where you go. And to me, that's the beauty of the world. The world is made up of everybody's, right? And you don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know. I encourage people, especially in the United States, go to other countries. See how other cultures live. See what they eat. Sit down at the table with them and eat. And find out, I found out Chinese food in America is not like Chinese food in China. And y'all need to really stop calling it Chinese food, because that is not Chinese food. I mean, just to be able to understand the culture. How they at the Chinese restaurant you get the big giant, lazy Susan with about enough food to
Oh
feed
yeah,
40
yeah.
people. In China, the culture they put that much out because they don't want you to get it from the table hungry. If you get it from the table and there's not food on your plate, oh, you got to sit down and eat some more. And I don't drink with Chinese men. I ain't drinking with them. They know I ain't drinking with them. They have a little thing about this many big, a little teeny tiny cup. And I said, "Oh yes, I'm a grown up. I can have that." I was almost under the table. One day, I'm like, "Y'all ain't. You are not fun." They had a good time,
Yeah.
and just to be around other people, be around other cultures. When we went to Africa, they had to drug me to get me back on the plane because I wasn't coming back. I was like,
Oh,
"Oh," and just to see the world. And if you don't get, and now you could do it online. I was just in Istanbul just the other day. It was right then. I didn't have to worry about going to the bathroom. I didn't have to worry about traffic, and understand what and you'll find we are all more alike than we are different.
oh my gosh, I believe that to my core. There's a concept in psychology, they call it superordination. And the way that it works is, let's say, for instance, if you like the Dodgers and I like the Angels, well, if you superordination, you say, hey, we both like baseball. But if you
Mm-hmm.
say, well, I don't like baseball, I like football, then you superordinate and say, oh, we both like sports. Say, oh, I don't like sports, I like politics. And you
Oh, I like
superordinate
that.
and say,
Oh,
oh,
wait a minute. What's it called again?
I like competition. So if you keep
Selective
super
subordination. I
coordinating,
love
you keep, it's not looking for finding common ground. Sometimes it feels like find the needle in the haystack, find a
it.
unicorn. But if you super ordinate, you realize we already have tons of common ground. We have so much, to your point, we have so much more in common as human beings than we realize. And it's really just these forces of division that have this financial incentive to divide us, to shock us, to make us watch these shows, to make us vote in certain ways. These are the systems that are designed to divide us. But at our core, we need to be with one another. And that's why conversation is the easiest and the best way for us to connect. Listening is the best and easiest way to earn trust. And just starting with that. And one thing I want to mention real quick is I had the privilege of visiting the Jet Propulsion Laboratory here in Pasadena area. And there's a wall in that room where they sent things to other planets, satellites, Mars rovers, all that stuff. In a room with that equipment, they had a wall with all these little white dots on it. And I said, what's with all the dots? It's a huge wall. And they said, come do like this with your hands. And then
Mm-hmm.
they put it up at the night sky. And they said,
Mm-hmm.
we did that at JPL. And we saw a patch of the sky where it looked like there was no stars. So they pointed that massive Hubble telescope in space. They pointed it to that little patch where it looked like there was nothing. And all those dots, those represented the millions of galaxies that they discovered in that patch. And it just made me feel so cosmically insignificant that when you don't think there's something, there are worlds and worlds and worlds and worlds that we don't know anything about. So it
No,
makes
we don't even know when the scientists said that the average human being only uses a 10% capacity of their brain power. 10%. And they fly airplanes, and you can ride a bus. I mean, you make a submarine. I don't know why people who can't swim think that the water won't hold. They can hold a submarine. You're weightless in the water. That's a psychological thing.
yeah.
And it's like, really? So you obviously are like me. I know there's some other beings out there, and I know one day y'all coming to get me. I'm gonna come get y'all, baby. I know. And sometimes, do you feel like that we're not in the universe by ourselves?
I would like to think we are not alone. I'd like to think that this universe is such a big place. I am not capable of even fathoming the depths of it. It's just my brain. I'm not going to pretend my brain has anywhere near the firepower it needs to even handle that thought. Uh, but all of it comes down to, like, okay, if we are cosmically insignificant, then really, what is the point of these divisions? They are so petty. They're so who cares? If I
Wait a minute,
can,
hold on. Let somebody come hold my seat. I got to run around this studio just see what is. See, I thought you got the memo. It said you don't do logic on the Mother Love Show till after 4 o'clock.
uh,
You see, you're making way too much sense, and that's what when you're talking about. Just sit and listen.
Yeah.
and hear where they actually listen. Don't just hear, listen and find out where they're coming from, to
That's it.
find out what they want to do. Now, I mean, you've been teaching for so long. You've got to have, what is your way of like decompressing? What do you do when you're not teaching, you're not instructing? Where do you go for fun?
So my favorite things to do is spend time with family for sure. Uh,
Mm.
I like boxing. I do that. I go running. I like watching my favorite TV shows for fun. Being outside, swimming in the ocean. I live in LA. People say there's no nature in LA. We have the freaking ocean. It's huge. It's right there. Go jump in it and see nature right there.
See, that lets you know that they have not been outside long enough to say, well, LA doesn't have any. We got the whole entire Pacific Ocean at the ready right there. And
That's
me,
it.
I would like the beach if they didn't have sand. Sand is like glitter at Christmas time and holiday time. I don't care. You picking up sparkles in July. Seriously, and you can keep it. But no, it's just the sand part bothers me. I like the water and everything. Do you like to travel?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. You've traveled to a lot of places. I've been to probably 30 different countries, and I can't get enough
Oh,
of it.
oh! I got my passport, and I'm a good traveler. You just call Mother Love and Mr.
Ah,
Kennedy.
oh my God. Wouldn't that be a
Tell people
dream?
how they can get in touch with you if they wanted to take your classes at USC coming up.
So if it's the name they see on the screen here, Kamy Akhavan, they Google that and you'll find me at USC. You can find me on social media. I'm on Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn and all those things. And I honestly, I love connecting with people. I love kind of helping them on their journeys. They help me on mine. They can increase my impact because I'm one person. And if I can help somebody do something, that feels like I'm doing the something.
Will you help this person do something? It has been my distinct honor and pleasure to chat with you. Please know that you're always welcome here at the Mother Love Show. Everybody, and tomorrow, me and Mr. Kennedy, it's going to be on and cracking because we're going to get it. I know we're going to, he always want to tell me what to think. I'm like, dude, I told him I'm going to find him a hobby. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Kamy Akhavan. Did I say it right?
You sure did. That was perfect. Thank you so much, Will. It was such a pleasure. I'm such a fan.
You
Yeah.
know why you like me? I'm tell you why you like me. Because you're easily entertained.